can property in Australia keep growing at 7% per annum? So I was reading an interesting article today that talked about this and had a number of theories about whether or not this was something that would continue. But for me, there's three things that are really important to consider when trying to answer this question. So a lot of people will knee-jerk answer, no, it's impossible, property's already overpriced, how could it possibly keep going up 7% per annum indefinitely? Eventually it's going to be unaffordable to everyone. And then there's people who are in the property game who will tell you that properties have advanced by 7% per year for the last 50 years. And every one of those decades, someone said, it can't keep going up, it can't keep going up, but yet it has. So if past performance suggests this, then maybe it's going to keep going up. But there's three things that are really important to understand. One being inflation. So inflation, roughly the value of money gets devalued by about 2.5% every year. And so when something grows by 8% or 7% per year, it's not really growing at 7% per year. It's really growing at about 4.5% to 5% per year because inflation is doing the rest. The value of your money is going down. And so part of that growth is effectively fake, or at least is keeping up with the value of money. It's not genuine growth relative to the cost of other things. But the question remains, can a property continue to grow, or can property continue to grow at 5%, for example, indefinitely? And the same arguments apply to both sides. Now, my personal view is that the median cost of property will not grow at 5% indefinitely. However, properties, houses specifically, that are bought in reasonable areas will continue to grow at 5% indefinitely. And the important distinction is median takes into account every property on the market. Now, if you look at Melbourne versus New York, for example, New York's got a more expensive median price, but it's not dramatically so. But it's important to note that the median property in New York is very different to the median property in Melbourne, despite both of them having a median house price. So the median or most common properties in New York might be a 2-bedroom apartment, whereas the average property in Melbourne might be a 3-bedroom townhouse or house on 300 squares of land. It's a very different median. And so I think what's likely going to happen in Australian cities as we continue to catch up with the rest of the world is that we will become a more dense population, which means we'll have more and more properties in a smaller area of land, which means that apartments and townhouses become more common, which means that the houses that do have land, I think, will continue to grow in value, whereas the median cost of property is not going to grow indefinitely. What do you think?